Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, with a review of a new horror movie out in theaters called Stopmotion. First, though, I want to note that this wasn't the video I was planning to make next. I was supposed to finally get back in front of the camera with my big, long overdue review of Nightmare on Elm Street 5, but I got sick with the flu for a week right as I finished my review of that new Suicide Squad game. I guess that game will actually physically make you ill, but I'm back now, and I decided to pace myself before making my next big video by reviewing a new indie horror flick you might overlook, Stopmotion. Also, as a bonus at the end of the video, I got a quick review of Lisa Frankenstein, which I saw just before getting sick. This video is a glorified wellness check.
Bringing dead things to life.
Let's begin with reviewing Stopmotion, directed by Robert Morgan in his directorial debut, making the jump from animating short films to directing a feature. But this film is still very much in his wheelhouse, as the sort of admittedly weak title suggests. This movie is all about stop-motion animation, which involves moving a figure, a puppet, a frame at a time, and when each frame is played back in sequence, it creates the illusion of movement, of life, in your figure on film. But like any other medium of animation, it's just an illusion. The subject isn't really alive, or is it? Stop Motion the film brings up some interesting questions about how much of themselves do animators put into their work to accomplish their craft. Is a work of animation just as real as the hands that brought it to life?
What's all that stuff?
It's called stop-motion animation.
Stop Motion centers around a stop-motion animator named Ella, who lives in the shadow of her famed mother, literally. Ella's mother is a Ray Harryhausen-like animator who has arthritis now and can no longer animate her puppets herself. So Ella has to animate her mother's films now, with her mother standing behind Ella the whole time, telling Ella exactly which movements to make while animating the puppets. Ella is essentially a puppet herself. She has no autonomy. She does exactly what her mother tells her to do. The invisible strings of fate pulling Ella are cut, though, when her mother has a stroke and falls into a coma, but Ella still wants to finish her mother's film without her mother's constant input. Just in case Ella's mom doesn't make it out of her coma, at least her mother's final opus will be complete. Except Ella doesn't continue animating the film her mother planned when a little girl enters Ella's apartment and demands that Ella make a different, more upbeat animated film about a little girl pursued through the woods by something called the Ashman.
The man no one wants to meet.
The Ashman.
Now, calling this movie The Ashman would be pretty cliched, but I think a lot more people would go to a movie called The Ashman over a movie called Stop Motion. Some people are allergic to making money, I guess. Though I suppose Ashman does sound pretty close to Ass Man, so maybe they didn't want to risk people drawing those parallels.
Hey, the Ass Man's in town!
You got that straight?
The thing with Ella, though, is that even without her mother's guidance, she's still a puppet. She needs direction. Ella can animate, but she has no imagination of her own. She's dependent on a little girl's dark, twisted ideas for the film's story.
It's a bit boring.
It's not finished, and it's not boring.
Make a new one.
A new one.
It feels like the kind of identity crisis a Nepo baby would grapple with, being the child of a famous artist. Are you capable of emerging from your parents' shadow to create art yourself, or are you just another one of your parents' creations? Ella has no sense of self, of identity. She relies on others to give her a sense of purpose. She has a boyfriend named Tom who seems supportive on the surface, but he doesn't really listen to Ella's problems. He just tries half-heartedly to make them go away. And a twisted aspect of Tom is that he has a sister who's also a stop-motion animator, just a much more successful animator for commercials. Stop-motion animation is such a specific niche job, so it seems like Tom is only dating Ella so he can basically date his own sister without actually dating his sister.
Hey, she emerges from her cave.
Ella.
When do you think you'll finish this film of yours?
I don't know.
But Ella doesn't really have any ideas of her own to begin with, though. The dark, twisted story for Ella's film is drip-fed to her scene by a weird, mysterious little girl. But the girl demands Ella make the film's puppets out of real, raw meat and animal carcasses to make the puppets more real, which is also why they look so fucking strange. The movie, of course, makes extensive use of stop-motion animation, and it's fantastically well-crafted and creepy, fluidly animated. The animation is rightfully a highlight of stop-motion, but it's to the point where I kinda wish this movie was just a fully stop-motion animated film. Though the movie does make it clear that stop-motion animation is a tedious, time-consuming process, and you're actually able to enter the life of a stop-motion animator and understand how painful their existence can be. And the film stop-motion is a lot like the medium it riffs on. It's slow and methodical. It takes a long time to finally start moving, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a slow burn. But if it wasn't for how creepy Ella's animation is, you wouldn't necessarily know this was a horror movie until maybe the last 20 to 30 minutes.
What does the Ashman do?
The best way to describe stop motion is that it's like a horror version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit with stop motion animation instead of cell animation. The horror of the movie involves the Ashman of Ella's film entering the real world and pursuing Ella in the night. But is it really happening? Is anything in this movie really happening, or is it all just in Ella's mind?
Do you want to hear the next bit of the story?
Stop motion unfortunately goes down the rabbit hole a lot of its indie horror contemporaries go down by getting really abstract and cerebral. The movie has a lot of disjointed sequences in the middle and at the end that don't necessarily make sense, that feel confusing on purpose. When it's something like a David Lynch movie where there is no clear intended meanings behind any of it, this can work well, but stop motion has things it's clearly trying to say about the medium and about being an artist. It just tries really hard to obscure the meanings behind weird random shit happening to try to add a sense of depth or mystery to the proceedings that isn't really there. You see this a lot with indie horror films now, but it's not necessary. The movie can just be about a stop-motion creature coming to life and trying to kill its creator, an animated horror film becoming real. We don't need abstract hallucinations on top of that, it just distracts from the narrative by disrupting it. Stop motion is ultimately a movie about a creator becoming literally consumed by their work and isolated from the real world to the point where they can barely distinguish fiction from reality. It's interesting material, and the film does a good job tackling it with fantastic animation, but the animation really upstages the live-action aspect of the film. It's definitely what the director is more comfortable with, which I guess works on a meta level, but some of the abstract diversions the live-action material takes can muddy the experience while watching the film, especially with how the movie ends. It felt like something out of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, trying too hard to be deep. Stop motion is a really good, creepy movie, though. I was unnerved watching it, and its visuals will stick with me for a long time. I can just see this movie as potentially being divisive. Not to everybody's tastes, but Shudder brought it to theaters, so if you can't catch it there, it'll probably be streaming on Shudder soon. I give stop motion a stop out of motion.
Taffy says it's a waste of time to try and fix up ways. Better just accept a guy's flaws.
Now it's time for my bonus review of another recent movie about a young woman animating lifeless flesh, Lisa Frankenstein, written by Diablo Cody of Juno fame, and directed by Zelda Williams of Being Robin Williams' daughter fame. The movie's title is an obvious pun on Lisa Frank and Frankenstein, and it feels like the only reason the movie was made. And, you know, I've been known to just make things for a pun, after all. Speaking of which, do you want Universal Horror Month to come back this summer? But making a movie just for a pun feels kinda weak. Basically, Catherine Newton plays an unpopular girl named Lisa Swallows, really unfortunate name, who moves to a new town after her mother was killed by a masked slasher movie killer, and Lisa ends up falling in love with a tombstone in the local cemetery, and through some contrived writing, the tombstone is struck by lightning one night, and the reanimated figure is one of the kids from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. But it's not Zack, unfortunately. It's Cody. I fucking hate Cody! Little snot-nosed punk!
No, don't cry. Your tears smell so bad.
Anyway, Lisa Frankenstein and her monster end up killing those that have wronged Lisa, and in the process restore the monster's missing body parts, including his dick. And that's basically the whole plot of the movie.
That hand is gonna do terrible things.
Lisa Frankenstein is charming and cute, with some amusing moments, but it just doesn't feel like it takes its material far enough, doesn't make it morbid or twisted enough. It just plays things safe and cute.
That's so cute.
When it could have gone more in a fucked up Reanimator direction, it instead feels like a horror version of Napoleon Dynamite. It's the sort of Frankenstein monster / zombie romance premise we've seen done a lot in the past, often by Tim Burton. In films like Edward Scissorhands, Corpse Bride, Warm Bodies, even something like Twilight, we get it. Girls really want to fuck undead twinks.
I don't want to die a virgin.
Lisa Frankenstein should have went beyond where its predecessors were willing to go to set itself apart, but instead it just settles on being cute and a little raunchy. I mean, the movie has the title character fuck a zombie, but it treats that as cute with an animation of them flying to the moon. No, it's fucked up. This love story should be tragic and morbid. It should be like those Necron comics by Magnus, about a crazy bitch that wants to fuck corpses. Lisa Frankenstein as a film is just decent. I had a fun enough time watching it, and it does a good job emulating Tim Burton, but it's just too familiar and safe for its own good. I give Lisa Frankenstein a Rainbow Dolphin folder out of Rainbow Unicorn Spiral Notebook.
I can't do that. Not until we bury the body.
Before I go, I want to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, me. Pledge to my Patreon today to support the channel, help it continue to grow, and you'll also get access to weekly movie nights every Sunday and archive commentaries if you miss the movie nights live. Just $5 a month to get a movie night every week. Pledge to patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula if you're interested, and I thank you in advance. If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. I'd also like to thank these fine folks pledged my shout-out tier on Patreon for all their kind support. Videos like this wouldn't be possible without all their help. Thank you for watching, see you next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.